Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Coach site I have another classic of science fiction for you. A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. This is the first in his Barsoom series. It introduces John Carter. There you just see the back, it's just some text. And obviously he wrote Tarzan, umpteen novels of Tarzan, umpteen novels of Barsoom, and so many others as well. So briefly what it says: Virginia gentleman John Carter, unexpectedly transported to the perilous red planet Mars, finds himself captured by the loveless green men of Thark. As Carter struggles to win his freedom and the affections of fellow captive Deja Thoris, princess of the rival clan of Helium, the fate of the entire planet hangs in the balance. Warring Martian tribes collide and the beleaguered atmosphere factory grinds to a suffocating halt. Ray Bradbury, reminiscing on the enduring thrill of Burroughs' Martian adventure, writes, "I stood on the lawns of summer, raised my hands, and cried for Mars, like John Carter, to take me home. I flew to the red planet and never returned." If you have seen the film John Carter, then basically it's this book with some changes. The thing is, this book is very problematical, as well as at times being a very good adventure. And the problem is, the time it was written was, I think, 1912. And it's all about the myth of the Southern gentleman, you know, the White Saviour, basically. Only a white man can save the locals. I mean, we see that even now in things like Avatar and The Last Samurai and so many others. I'll read you an example, for instance, and you'll see why it's problematical. He seemed always to be laughing. This is from the very first page. The very first page, the second paragraph. He always seemed to be laughing, and he entered into the sports of the children with the same hearty good fellowship he displayed towards the pastimes in which the men and women of his own age indulged. This is basically the introduction to John Carter by the narrator. Or he would sit for an hour at a time entertaining my old grandmother with stories of his strange wildlife in all parts of the world. We all loved him, and our slaves fairly worshipped the ground he walked on. He was a splendid specimen of manhood, standing a good 2 inches over 6 feet, broad of shoulder and narrow of hip, with the carriage of the trained fighting man. His features were regular and clear-cut, his hair black and closely cropped, while his eyes were of a steel grey, reflecting a strong and loyal character, filled with fire and initiative. His manners were perfect, and his courtliness was that of a typical southern gentleman of the highest type. His horsemanship, especially after hounds, was a marvel and delight even in that country of magnificent horsemen. I don't need to go on. You can see all the problems that is in this book, but we have to bear in mind the time it was written. Social mores, attitudes are very different now. This style of writing, I mean, it's awful, really, some of the stuff that's in here. The fact, like I said, only a white man can possibly save the green and red Martians. There's no way they could possibly work it out themselves with their super advanced civilization that's thousands of years ahead of Earth. Like I said, problematical. However, the film John Carter does a good job of removing all of that poison, basically. And I did enjoy that film. It in itself is has its own problems, but not like this, you know. Its problems are more of pacing, poor direction and acting. The plot, the overall story of both is really enjoyable. It's just the specifics, the nitty-gritty, the writing, the attitudes, very much of their times, you know, and we would not tolerate that kind of writing today. I assume Tarzan is another example, of course, of the White Saviour. An English lord crash landed or whatever in the jungle, and only he can lead the tribes and all that sort of thing. Like I said, very problematical in many aspects, this book, but also an enjoyable read. And therein lies the dichotomy, you know. It's like, what do you do? Is it just a book? Is it something more? Like I said, it's fine to read this, bearing in mind we are very different now. And I ripped right through this book very, very fast. I mean, it's not brilliant literature. It's good, fun type of literature. And if you read it like that, you know, and you ignore those other aspects, you can enjoy this book. The others are all the same as well, the Gods of Mars and all that sort of thing. They have that problem, you know. It's like Yeah, the southern gentlemen, they were all so great. All their slaves loved them. You know, everyone else, they were bad masters. He was a good master. There were no good masters. But like I said, that's the problem with this book. But it does have a lot of fun elements in it as well. And it's fun seeing him trying to explain advanced technology, like transporting himself to Mars. He basically transfigures himself mentally. Or when he marries Deja and they have a child, she gives birth to an egg. You know, it's stuff that is really, with our knowledge, that is ridiculous. But I mean, obviously, we can travel to Mars now. Certainly, probes can, and in due course, in a few years' time, our people will also go there. Perhaps they will find the remains of Barsoom or whatever civilization may or may not have existed on that planet. But I thought I would just bring this to your attention. Like I say, it has good and bad parts, and you can take the good, but you must also recognise the bad. So there you go, guys. That is our little look at A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or a suggestion for an upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed, or like the video.